everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I kind of wanted to just sit down and recap our recent trip to Mexico. Both the highs and lows, because we definitely had both. So I figured I would kind of put some makeup on while I do it, like a little get ready with me. And I will just kind of list all the products that I use down in the description box below in case I kind of forget to mention what I'm using as I tell you stories and stuff. So without further ado, grab a coffee or a cocktail and let's talk about Mexico. Okay, so I already have my makeup done, obviously, mostly because that's easier to do when I'm not talking. I wanted to show you guys real quick. I use the ColourPop Feelin' Bubbly eyeshadow palette. This is my favorite eyeshadow palette of all time, mostly because ColourPop just does something different with their shadows. They're so blendable and pigmented, especially their glitters. Also, they're really affordable, and their palettes are this like cool cardboardy material. So instead of being that like plastic palette material where your like shadows could break or crumble out if you throw it in your suitcase or something, this is really easy and it's really travel friendly. So I just kind of wanted to mention that. The rest of the makeup I will probably just list down below in the description just in case you're curious on what I'm using. Today's going to be a little bit more about the stories and the trip and stuff like that, so I don't know if I'll stop to mention each different makeup that I use. So a little backstory and info kind of about our trip. We spent a week in the Yucatan Peninsula. So about 3 days in Merida and then 3 days in Cozumel. This was our first trip going to Mexico where we didn't stay at an all-inclusive resort. I think we've probably done the resort thing maybe 3 or 4 times now, and we love them. Like, we always have such a good time. They're really fun, they're really relaxing, but they do tend to feel a little bit Americanized and touristy sometimes. So we wanted a chance to kind of go to Mexico without and like experience more of an authentic culture-y type experience. And Kirk wanted to practice his Spanish. He practices on Duolingo every single day for, I think maybe a year or 2 now he's been doing it. And he listens to the Spanish radio literally every single day. So he wanted a chance to kind of like try it out and talk to locals. So we picked Merida because it's a little bit away from the touristy area. It's about a 3.5 hour drive from Cancun. And it's actually considered one of the safest cities in the world, which is one of the things we got probably the most questions about when we were telling people we were going on this trip was safety. Like, everyone was really concerned, but in Merida we actually felt incredibly safe. We were actually really like astounded at the high police presence there. Their police force is everywhere. Like, there's almost police on every single corner kind of watching things, and we felt really safe there. We actually really liked Merida. The food was super yummy. I probably ate 10 tacos or so in a 3-day time span. It was really authentic. There's tons to do there. It's really pretty, and everything is like really affordable too, which we just like kept being surprised by. We actually went to dinner one night at a fancier, kind of more upscale restaurant, and we ordered steaks and tacos and cocktails, and the whole bill, including tip, was around $40 US, which is just insane because back home, something like that would easily cost $75, $80 or maybe even more. So we just kind of kept noticing that, and we thought that that was really cool. Our first full day in Merida, we just kind of explored the city a little bit and did some shopping. So in Merida on Sundays, they shut down a few of the main roads so that people can bike and walk on them. And this was a Sunday, so that's what we did. We kind of just went to the different markets and explored some different stores and stuff. I specifically wanted to go to Taqueria La Lupita. They're a famous taco shop. They were on Taco Chronicles on Netflix. And they are located in this crazy market. And this was like our first full day in Mexico and first experience where we were kind of like, oh no, we were maybe a little bit overconfident coming here, overconfident in Kirk's Spanish abilities. We get there and there's just like people everywhere. Obviously all the signs are in Spanish, and we can't at first figure out like where we're supposed to go to order food. Like, we realized that we don't know how to order food and say we want it to go, not sit at a table. And it was hard for us to like ask the people around us, obviously, because they all speak Spanish. I mean, duh. But we realized that like the Spanish that you learn on Duolingo, or even in, you know, your 4 years of high school Spanish that we both had, it's not the everyday conversational Spanish that they teach you. Duolingo in high school, they tend to teach you more formal Spanish. So this was kind of our first experience like trying to figure it out, but we ended up figuring it out. It was just fine. We used Google Translate. We kept noticing like people were very patient and very willing to help us, and like they would use Google Translate if we were struggling. And so we ended up figuring it out. We got on the right line. We got our tacos for like a few dollars, and the food was so good. After that, we just kind of like ate food, wandered around, shopped, saw the sights all day, had a lot of fun. In Merida was probably my favorite Merida day. We went to some local cenotes. So there's a town about an hour outside of Merida. It's called HIIIII, and they have over 300 cenotes in this little town. And they're all like more privately owned, so it's a little bit different than like a cenote that you would see when you're on an excursion in Cancun or Tulum or something. So you kind of just pull up to these people's property, you get out, you pay them a few pesos, and they let you swim around in their cenote for usually like an hour or two. We ended up being kind of the only ones there on that day, so nobody ever came down to tell us to get out. So I don't know if they don't ever enforce the rule about an hour or two, or if it was just that day and we got lucky, but they're all like a little bit different. Some have rope swings to jump off of, some have platforms to jump off of, some are just like little caves to swim around in. They're all just super cool. We ended up only going to 2. We wanted to go to 4 or 5 to kind of really check them out, but we got lucky to only be the only people there that day. It was a weekday and it was a little bit rainy, and so we just kind of like relaxed and swam around and took fun videos and pictures and spent the entire day between the 2 that we went to. So we had a lot of fun. The second one that we went to had this platform to jump off of, and it was probably only maybe 10-15 feet off the water, but the cenote itself was very narrow. So when you're standing up there and looking down, the walls feel very close to you, like the rock wall. So I wanted to jump from this platform, but I was kind of freaked out. So I sent Kirk in first because I figured if I saw him do it, I would realize it was safe and I would stop freaking out. So I sent him in. I sent him with the GoPro because I wanted him to take a little video of me jumping in. I thought it would be cool for my video, of course, but instead we have literally, I wish I was kidding, literally 22 minutes of footage of me standing on this platform being a little chicken and telling Kirk I can't jump in, I can't do it, and I was like almost in tears. I really worked myself up. I do want to say I did finally jump, and as I jumped I said I'm only doing this so I'm still cool, and then pretty much as soon as I jumped in we left because I had worked myself up so bad, like to the point that I was shaking and nauseous. We went to Cozumel for a few days, and the main reason we wanted to go to Cozumel was to scuba dive. I had actually read that Cozumel is the 2nd best place in the world to scuba dive after the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, and I'm just beyond glad that we went. Kirk has been diving probably 20-ish times and said that this was his favorite dive. I'm newer to diving, so I don't have a lot to compare it to, but it was incredible. The guide that we went with was super like friendly and knowledgeable, and it almost seemed like he kind of knew where certain species hid out under like what coral they usually were under, so he could point them out really easily. And we ended up seeing so much stuff, like multiple puffer fish, colorful fish, eels, stingrays, barracudas. But the coolest part, we saw this giant turtle and got so close to him and got to watch him like snacking on coral, and it was incredible. We actually saw multiple turtles throughout our dive, but this big one and being so close to it was just the coolest freaking experience. We also saw multiple sharks. They were just little nurse sharks, so nothing like too crazy, but they're big, and it's always cool no matter what to be next to a shark. There was one that was easily 6-7 feet long, and I swam just right over it. It was awesome. Our other big activity in Cozumel was driving around in this little purple convertible. We kind of drove like the main loop around the island and just stopped to take cool pictures on the beach and see some of the sights, and that was super fun. let's talk about lows for a second. First off, we got scammed at a gas station. In Mexico, if you don't know this, you cannot pump your own gas. They have attendants that pump your gas for you. And we went to a gas station at a pretty touristy area. And we realized when we got home that we got charged for like a lot more gas than we actually needed or received. The problem is it's really hard to calculate kind of what's happening when you're there because their gas is in liters per peso instead of like we're used to here, gallons per dollar. So it's a lot to calculate in the few minutes that you're there. And honestly, even if we had realized what was happening, we probably wouldn't have known enough Spanish to be able to kind of stand up for ourselves. So once we got back to our Airbnb and looked at the receipt and realized what happened, we realized that we got charged for about 3/4 tank of gas. And when we got there, we were still over 3/4 a tank full. So we actually received less than 1/4 tank of gas, but got charged for over 3/4 tank of gas, which is just irritating. In the grand scheme of things, this isn't like a huge deal. They ended up taking about $45 from us, so really not anything horrible. And I ended up getting a hold of the bank and they kind of took care of it for me anyways. So travel hack, have a good travel credit card and a really good bank with really good customer service. Second, that cute little convertible we were driving, apparently in these older convertibles, the battery is stored underneath the back seat cushion instead of like underneath the hood like in a normal car. So since it's convertible and there's no option for coverage, there's no top that you can put up, there's nothing. Someone can very easily reach in, remove your back seat cushion, and take your battery, which is what happened to us. And this was on our last day of our trip, so it was pretty irritating, and even more irritating when I started doing some Googling after this happened and realized that this has been happening for over 11 years. I found forums of people talking about how this happened to them from over 11 years ago. And the rental car companies obviously know that this happens to customers and don't do anything to fix it. They don't care because they, you know, the customer buys them a new battery and they lose out on nothing. So they don't care. I really feel like at this point, you know, over 11 years of this, the companies could do something to like lock that cushion down so that it's not such easy access. But like I said, you know, they don't care. And we actually, the way that the rental car company handled everything felt very shady, and things that were done after and said after this happened really gave us an icky feeling and almost made us feel like they might be in on the scam and the battery thing. So, you know, just not a great feeling and not the best way to have ended our trip. But like the gas thing in the grand scheme of things, not the end of the world. We did have to buy them a new battery, which of course they cost 3 times more in Mexico than they do back here in the US, which is so annoying. But, you know, we made it home safe. Everything was okay in the long run, and that's what truly matters. So aside from our 2 little mishaps, we had a really great trip. We had a really fun time. It's so nice living in Texas and only being about a 2-hour plane ride away from Mexico. We have decided that next time we go back, we are going to brush up on our Spanish first. We've actually kind of talked about joining an in-person Spanish class, so I'm excited to learn more Spanish and then go back and kind of see how that goes for us. But I'm about done with my makeup, and those are all the stories that I wanted to tell, so I'm actually going to wrap up the video here. I hope that you like this style of video and all the little stories and stuff. One of the main reasons I decided to do YouTube videos in the first place and like long form content instead of short little mini videos on TikTok or something is because I want it to feel similar to sitting down and having a conversation with a friend, and I really hope that that's the way these videos come across. I watch these few YouTubers every single week, and when they post a video and I get to watch it, it just feels cozy and comforting to me. And so I hope in a way that that's what you receive from these videos. So let me know your thoughts. Does this inspire you to go to Mexico? Have you tried staying off a resort? Do you have crazy stories too? If you want to go and you want more info, I will have my blog linked down below, and I have several posts about Merida, Cozumel, scuba diving, all kinds of stuff. So definitely check that out. Otherwise, that's it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching. Bye!